Okay, I'm gonna try to show an example of why games shouldn't be so predetermined and pre-planned like they are nowadays, right? So I'm gonna go. I'm not saying Super Turbo is the greatest fighting game ever, but Street Fighter 2 is the most important fighting game series ever, right? So a lot of goodwill of fighting games comes from it, right? So we look back at Street Fighter 2 and we see a lot of, maybe from one perspective, very powerful moves, right? Special moves, normals, but in that chaos, there's also, balance in the chaos or whatever that saying is, right? So I want to show you why when games are not so predetermined and pre-planned, the game, is that like Jurassic Park? It will find a way. Nature will find a way, right? I'm going to show you how Street Fighter 2 found a way, right? So if we were to take like a cliche example, right? You can actually die from block damage in this game, right? So let's say we have a situation where, like, okay, Ryu does a DP, right? Imagine the power bars aren't correct, but for sake of argument, right? So Ryu would want to kill. So in actuality, the best situation if you wanted to kill Sagat would be if you were in distance, you would walk up and DP him because DP, he wouldn't be able to beat the DP. But let's imagine you couldn't get to that distance, right? So you would just want to, maybe if you don't play the game a lot, if your knowledge of the game is not that advanced, you would think, okay, well, the best thing to do since I can't get into DP Sagat to kill him with block damage would be to do a meaty fireball, right? So here's what would happen then. So Sagat, you're going to do this, boom. Sagat can reversal to go through the fireball, right? This is what could happen if you're not in a situation where you can actually walk in. Again, roll with me here. I know the power bar is not correct, but roll with me for the story, right? This is what would happen in that situation potentially, right? Sagat could just reversal, boom. He saved himself and he hit you potentially, right? So in actuality, though, the best thing to do in this situation is actually sweep, right? Imagine you could not get in close enough, right? I know the distance isn't correct here, but I'm trying to tell you the story, right? You knocked him down at a distance, you're trying to kill him, and you can't get into DP. The best situation in this is not actually to do a meaty fireball, but a sweep. Because moves, this is what I'm talking about when I talk about balance in the chaos, right? Even though Sagat's DP is invincible, because there are so many high priority normals in the game, you can do this with new Ryu as well, but new Ryu is not as lenient. Old Ryu is a little bit better hitboxes and hurtboxes, so which we just called priority back in the day. Stop being such a little bitch. No, it's not actual priority. That whole priority argument is so ridiculous. Like, just you don't have to be so fucking anal, dude. We know that it's not actual priority. We're kind of encompassing, hurt boxes and hit boxes, etc. But people want to act like they're smart. But back in the day, we just said priority. Okay. Point is, so actually, the best thing in this situation would be to sweep. If Sagat tries to tiger uppercut, his tiger uppercut is not actually invincible enough to go through all of Ryu's sweep. So he has to block Ryu's sweep, and then Ryu, if he blocked the sweep, then he would do a fireball, right? And then Sagat would die from the fireball, right? And you can watch it in slow motion, right? He goes for a boom. He can't be. The move is not actually invincible enough to go through Ryu's sweep if you're at the correct distance. And the distance you would do it at is a distance that you can't get in to DP to kill. Not a lot of people probably know that. It's probably, maybe that's too advanced for some people or something like that. But, that's like real kind of like, knowing the spacing of your attacks, like footsies and all these kind of shit, dude, right? You know what I mean? That's something. Now, if you think about that, do you think that would, generally speaking, ever happen in a game nowadays? Where everything is so predetermined, so pre-planned. This move can't be this. This move can't be that good. This move can't. This move must only have that purpose, right? This move can only do this. This move can only do that. Do you think when they planned this, they were like, wow, Ryu sweep, we want that to be able from this specific distance to beat that. We want this to be, we want the mind game, the level, to go that far deep. They probably didn't, right? Because the game marinated on its own. Because when, video games are not so pre-contrived, predetermined, a lot of times the game will actually, like Jurassic Park, find a way. A T-Rex will be born from a frog that was only female. I don't know, whatever. Here's another random example I'll try to give, right? Let's see, I just try to tape a couple of things, right? So let's say Zangief, right? Let's say Zangief, right? You want to jump in. Jumping in on Zangief isn't that good if he reversal lariat, right? He could just reversal lariat your Fierce, right? He reversal lariat's Fierce, right? Well, that's not good. But what if you do jump strong? Gief's lariat actually does not beat Ryu's jumping strong, even though the attacks look exactly the same. Gief's lariat does not actually beat old Ryu's jumping strong. And actually, as a matter of fact, this is actually pretty risky. I just did this because it was more simple. And Cross was helping me tape this. And like I said, I would still play video games online, but I can't get shit to not like lag like a motherfucker. You know what I mean? And my broken ass Sega Saturn parents. Does anyone know why Fight Kid and GGPO lag on like newer systems? I don't get it. That's why I stopped playing video games like 5 years ago or whatever when I got this thing. 'Cause I just, not that I was playing a lot, but sometimes I like to play little video games for 15 minutes. But point is, Ryu can actually do his dizzy combo even off this. Jump in, strong punch, then you just do crouch medium, crouch strong, crouch forward, fireball, right? But point is, there's like a level of mind game, right? But let's take it even a step further. Did you know though that Ryu's jump strong actually cannot hit crouching people? I don't know about that. I actually think this is kind of bullshit. Like I said, I don't agree with everything that Super Turbo does. You know what I mean? I don't agree with everything. But do you think the game was so pre-contrived, predetermined, that these kind of mind games were specifically put in the game to act like this? So it's like, okay, so there's this mind game of if oh, I didn't show a win. I didn't show it. So if you do a jump in, oh wow, what happened right there? So eventually, if you do a jump in Fierce though, right? So strong will miss, right? Then a Fierce actually hits though, right? So the mind game, of course, is obviously Gief's lariat beats everything that Ryu can do when he jumps in as a reversal, but jump strong. And the jump strong actually leads to Ryu's dizzy combo. You know what I mean? Jump in strong, crouch forward, fireball, right? But then the mix up of that is technically very risky, but Gief can duck a jump strong, right? So then if you do Fierce, then you can't though, right? So do you think the game was so pre-contrived and predetermined that they actually wanted that? Or was there a little bit of, what is this? Balance in the chaos, right? And that's something, I could actually give lots of examples of like this. There's lots of like little intricacies and whatever thing like that. But I think that's little things that people probably don't really realize. You know what I mean? When people are like, oh, DPs are so powerful, blah, blah, blah. First of all, DP should be invincible. It's supposed to stop you from doing shit, right? But even in a game, and Sagat doesn't have the most invincible DP in the game. I'm not saying that. But from a perspective, when I talked about why Super Turbo is a success, because it has a good narrative, right? You know what I mean? I'm not saying I agree with everything in the game, but there's a good narrative in the game as well. And so if we were to take a classic example like Sagat, he kills you in 4 or 5 DPs. It has invincibility. It can really hurt you, right? But then if you look at it from a different perspective, you can also see that since normals are so potentially powerful as well, you can actually have amazing situations like that, right? Situations that are extremely discouraged in new games nowadays, right? Because they're so pre-contrived, right? And I've said this, and like I said, I would love to give lots of examples of like things that I don't think are that great about Super Turbo, or things I think are great, things I would do to fix it, right? But I'm trying to get like people that maybe don't like these kind of games because they're jimmies and they don't understand the goodwill of Street Fighter, right? But games should lean towards this, right? You want things to be powerful, right? And then hopefully it will be like Jurassic Park and it will find a way, right? I'm not saying to outright make things totally broken whatsoever, right? But because there are things that are broken, but you know, you don't want things to be so pre-contrived. For everything to be like handed to you on a silver platter, like, hey, right before my match, this move is only supposed to do this frame, this is this frame, blah 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 blah. But your turn, blah 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 blah. Your turn is when you pick your character, dude, right? I know games need to progress, and I'm not saying that the whole, you know, I'm not saying that everything that fighting games have progressed to be is bad. Certain ideas are good. Games do need to progress. But games shouldn't be going one step forward, one step back, or one step forward, two steps back, right? So I just wanted to try to like get you to appreciate. I wanted to show two things that maybe you're like, wow, this is too powerful. Reversals are too good. DPs are too good. But then it's like, if you actually know what you're doing in these games, there's ways like around this shit, and it's just an added a depth of layer depth, right? So hopefully you could appreciate that.